Hey, welcome back to the hangar, everybody. So as you guys know from last week, I was not here. We had, my wife and I had tickets to the rodeo, so we went to the Houston Rodeo and Livestock Show, and that was a really good time. So that's the first time I've ever been to that. And like I said, we had a pretty good old time. The guys were here working at the hangar and just getting some of the logistics stuff sorted out. So yeah, here's a couple updates on the Phantom. All right, back for another day at the hangar. It's a bit slow today. We're waiting on parts to show up to fix a few things like this fuel flow transmitter. This is what meters and measures the fuel to show on the gauge in the cockpit how much fuel the engine is burning at any given instant. So we're waiting on some seals to come in for this before we can put this back in the airplane. We're also waiting for a few other things for the jet as well. Hey guys. And so what I figured I'd do today is take you around and give you guys a quick update on all of our aircraft, because we've had some movement on pretty much everything here. So let's start and go next door. All right, moving on to our ME-262, and this is not an original. For those of you guys new to the channel, this is a 2002 reproduction aircraft that is a one-to-one replica of a real ME-262. There's some slight differences, a little bit more modernized on the fuel systems and the avionics, and these have engines that are a lot more easier on maintenance and go a lot longer before overhaul intervals than the original engines ever did. The original engines, the UMO 004s, had a mean time before overhaul, roughly 25 hours, depending on how well the pilots flew that airplane. But these are a lot easier on maintenance, like I said. But she is undergoing annual right now. We're also dealing with a hydraulic actuator that's leaking a little bit on one of the mains, which is why she's up on jacks. And we have to anchor the tail so it doesn't tip over. And so that's what's going on with the ME-262. Hopefully this will be back in the air before too long, and definitely before the air show later this October here locally. So that's an update on our ME-262. So let's continue on and go to the next hangar. All right, some news on our Huey. So what's keeping her grounded is obviously there's no blades on the rotor mast there. Blades for the shorter Hueys. This is an Echo model Huey. It had a different rotor system than the stretch fuselage Hueys, so the H model and newer. This had a different rotor system, different transmission, different engine than the newer Hueys. We believe that we have found a good serviceable set of blades. So dealing with the logistics of getting those, getting our hands on those. But what we did, I believe last week, was rolled her out and fired up the engine for the first time in a while. And got a good overview of what we need to do. Now, when starting the engine, if you don't have a set of blades, is you can start and idle the engine. You cannot run the engine any higher than idle, because it's still spinning the driveline and the rotor mast and the tail rotor as well. But yeah, you cannot take the engine over idle without a set of blades on top. So here's a little clip of that day, and it was really nice to see this thing come to life. I haven't personally seen that yet. But it'll be really awesome whenever we do get a set of blades here and everything mounted and this thing serviced and inspected and annualed and see this thing fly again. This is actually a Vietnam, this saw combat in Vietnam with Marine Observation Squadron 6. This served with the Marines. So we're gonna move on to the next hangar. All right, not much going on here with the T-33. This does need a new engine. The engine that's in this is pretty much timed out. So in order for this to ever fly again, we need to get our hands on a newer engine that has a lot of life left in it. Our engine, like I said, is timed out. So yeah, that's our T-33. So that's, unless we find an engine for this, I don't see this getting off the ground anytime soon. But we do keep it cleaned up and ready for displays for a lot of things like air shows and any other public events here locally. So let's move on. I got another aircraft to discuss. All right, now we get to talk about the airplane that isn't here, and I'm not talking about the F-100. I think you guys really loved that flight video for the F-100 a couple weeks ago, and that is awesome. It's all really, really good to see that airplane back in the air again, and I think that's arguably the second oldest in our collection of 6 aircraft down here in Houston, Texas. I think that T-33 is a little bit older than the F-100. The F-100, I believe, was built in '56. Anyway, the airplane that isn't here is our TA-4J Skyhawk, which currently is in Meridian, Mississippi for an air show that she was scheduled for. So here's, we were able to launch her out, I believe, on Friday. She went to Meridian, Mississippi, and she's performing in the air show there at the Naval Air Station, or yeah, I believe it's the Naval Air Station now over there, Meridian. So yeah, here's some shots of that happening. Really awesome to see our aircraft doing air shows again, and I know we're working hard to get the F4 back in flight status so she can start doing air shows again. So hopefully we get that knocked out soon. We got some work to do left on the F4. All right, so on the subject of the F4, what I was able to do last weekend is leave the cameras behind, and Jet Jerod, who's flying the A4 this weekend, he was able to take the cameras and walk around with it last week. I was not able to get back to the hangar at all in time to get anything out for last weekend, but figured I'd leave some footage of you guys of last weekend for you guys. So I'm going to end the video with everything that he was able to film that day. So that's our update from the hangar. We should have more going on next week. We're expecting some parts to come in. So until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next weekend.
What the heck is this? Hey, look what I found in the Huey. Wonder whose this is. I don't know. Hi, I'm not Jamie, and this is Diesel Thunder. All right, well, here we are over at the Collings Foundation hangar. Of course, got the F4 behind us, and the guys over here are working on some stuff. I know you're probably used to seeing Jamie, but Jamie is busy, and he happened to leave his camera hanging around, so I figured I'd pick it up and film some stuff for him, and hope you enjoy this. So we're just going to do a little bit of talking about some odds and ends stuff today. There's nothing spectacular going on, just typical little maintenance things happening, so hope you enjoy this.
All right, so first thing we're going to be doing today is inspecting our hot purge kit for our liquid oxygen system. Since we're hoping we're getting closer to flying, we're going to hook this up to the bottle which will be installed in the airplane, and we pass nitrogen, gaseous nitrogen, through this, and this heats up, and that'll help kill any microbes or any nastiness that has gotten into the oxygen system in the years that we've been sitting, so that our pilots don't get sick while they're flying. So one of the other things that we did today was we located this plate. It was still down in one of the other hangars where we used to have the aircraft, and it goes down in the back seat, and it mounts one of our boxes that goes back there. We gotta put all this back in before we can put the seats back in, so I'm glad we located that. And we found a small leak on the drain plug on the starter here on the number 2 side. I think it's just the O-ring probably got pinched when it was going back in, so we're gonna drain the oil out of this starter and get a new O-ring on that drain plug, and then get our service back up so we don't have any more oil leaks going on. All right, pretty slow day at the hangar today, but I don't really want to do it, so.
Howdy. Yeah, we got hangar 3 cleaned up a little bit, serviced one of the starters on here. We've still got another one to do on the other side. But not much left to do here today. We've got a bunch of items that we kind of have to work towards, but we were waiting on parts for certain things, so we're gonna wrap up here for today, go get some lunch, call it a little bit early. So Thank y'all for watching, and hope to see y'all next week right here on Diesel Thunder Aviation.
We're going to lunch. Go away.
We'll see you next time on Jet Jerod.
Oh, Jet Jerod. I
Who's
forgot.
that guy?
Jared Thunder Diesel.
Jet Jerod Thunder Diesel. All right, later.